Okay, so where do we begin? Okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's start in 1984. 1984, Michael Jackson was the height of his career. He was in the middle of a recording studio session, and he overheard someone talking about the catalog of the Beatles, that it was going up for $60 million. But what ended up happening was the guy who wanted to... Versailles. The guy who wanted to part with the Beatles catalog ended up changing his mind and decided that he didn't want to just part with the Beatles catalog, that he wanted to sell the whole entire catalog and the rest of the music all together in just one sale. So what ended up happening was everyone got wind of the sale. So 1984, Michael Jackson petitioned to put up, there was a bidding frenzy for the ATV music catalog, which contained the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, a lot of great acts, all of the major acts, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, his first album, mostly all of the hip hop, and even future acts like Adele and stuff, people who didn't exist yet. So, with that happening, everybody wanted this catalog of music that held about 2 million songs. 2 million songs. So what ended up happening was Virgin Music Group, which is a company based out of UK, which is owned by Richard Branson, devised a plan like, hey, I want to be able to make some money on this. I want to be able to capture or get the catalog back so I can give it to Paul McCartney and resell it for the Lords of London, because Richard Branson is a Lord of London, you know? So was a Paul McCartney. So he was like, okay, we can't allow this guy, black guy, to own this type of music that's so big, that's monarchy and royalty. So that was the first issue, that Michael Jackson owned music that belonged to royalty. That was his first mistake. And once he learned about business, you know. So at that time, Richard Branson, he was in aerospace. He was in airplanes and stuff like that in 1984. Well, at that time, his company was kind of like going bankrupt. You know, the Virgin Airlines and all of that. He couldn't raise up enough money. He didn't have enough money to be able to purchase the ATV music. So what happened was, in 1990, he ended up signing Janet Jackson for $50 million. So he's like, okay, so since I can't get the catalog, can't get the company, I gotta figure out something. So let me think. Let me sign Michael Jackson's sister. How did he sign her? He had Janet Jackson and her husband at the time, Renee. And the reason why I uploaded this picture right here is because this is when Michael Jackson got his hair burned in 1984. And I thought it was interesting that in the next picture that I'm going to show you, Richard Branson kind of like mocks Michael Jackson and says that, oh, I thought that Janet Jackson's hair was going to catch on fire. Like, why would you say that? And I mean, that was something serious. Michael Jackson got burned. And why would Janet sign with him after that, knowing that her brother got burned? That was something serious. It's nothing to play with. Meet with him at, I guess, some sort of location. And he told her that he wanted to sign her, but he wanted to, you know, take her on a trip. He brought her up on a hot air balloon and got her to sign. Now, that story sounds very familiar to Jay-Z when he went to go sign Rihanna up on the 29th floor. It's always high up, so people can always die or make them feel uncomfortable or try to emit some sort of fear into them. So Janet Jackson's with them for $50 million, one of the biggest contracts ever. She stayed with Virgin music for 20 something years, up until 2008, 6 months before Michael Jackson died. (2001) Jay-Z, Michael Jackson. Jay-Z comes out to Summer Jam. His special guest was no other than Michael Jackson. Why is this important? Michael Jackson is the king of pop. He's so big that rap is not even his genre. So for him to pop out on the Summer Jam stage was just kind of weird. And if nobody else felt that that was kind of weird, then there's something wrong with you. Sources have told me that the only reason that Michael Jackson came out on that stage for Jay-Z was for payment to show him in good faith that if you get rid of Aaliyah. Why you get rid of Aaliyah? 2001, she was the it girl. And look at the pictures. Aaliyah's hat. Janet was feeling like she was stealing her style. You know, and she was only 20 something years old. That's why her album That's why her album 20-Year-Old came out, was a slight dig at Beyonce and Aaliyah. But first, Jay-Z had to be installed at Def Jam first. So while she's still at Virgin Music Group, she did a song called Strawberry Bounce and gave Jay-Z writing credit. She thought that that was enough while he was over at Def Jam. Remember, they did all this after Aaliyah died. So why am I showing you this? To show you the business that they had after Aaliyah died. Then Jay-Z came out with 30-something on the album Kingdom Come. You know, and then in 2006, Janet would be released. And then that's when the beef between Beyonce and Janet would brew up. And then that's when Jay-Z will come out with the song 30-something after Janet released the album 20-Year-Old. And then he takes a shot at her and says basically like his girl buys purses, the Birkin purses, and Janet didn't even know what that was. That was a dig between them two, only that they knew about. And then so he took a shot at Jermaine Dupri. Then he took a shot at Michael Jackson by talking about he needs to hire the baby, like fire the babysitters. Why is that significant? Because Diddy's bodyguards ended up becoming Michael Jackson's security guards. And if you notice, one of the bodyguards had a tell-all book, a memoir, and he said that he was basically Michael Jackson's babysitter. Back to Aaliyah. The only reason that Michael Jackson came out on that stage for Jay-Z was for payment to show him in good faith that if you get rid of Aaliyah for me to help Janet's career, I'll do all these features, I'll do all these songs with you. If you notice, right after that, Michael Jackson did songs with Akon, Kanye West, Rihanna, even got samples from Michael Jackson. So it shows that the history after and the relationship that he had with Jay-Z even after. Now, why would Jay-Z want to befriend a person like Michael Jackson? Number one, like I told you in the beginning of this conversation, that Jay-Z, once he came in the game, he didn't understand how the business worked. So once he started to understand how it worked and he got himself out of the Rockefeller deal. Now, this is where Jaguar Wright comes in. The blueprint. First was the Kingdom Come. This is how your kingdom's going to come to an end, Michael Jackson. Each album meant something. Next was the blueprint. This is how we're going to do it. Here's the plan. And then the other one was DOA. This is how he died. He was dead on arrival. Yeah, he knew KRS had the blueprint first, but he had to do this in order to send a message to the Lords of London through images and visuals. So once she realized, okay, she's on the song Cry, and then And then Jay-Z reaches out to Bunny Sigler, who is part of Kenny and Gamble and Leon and Huff. That's how Jaguar Wright also ended up on there, because he reached out to her Uncle Kenny. And then, but how did he reach out to her Uncle Kenny? He ended up reaching out to Clive Davis, because see, at one point, they were signed to CBS Records, which was ran by Clive Davis. But this was back in the 80s. And see, they had a great artist over there by the name of Teddy Pendergrass. And he got into a car accident, just like Left Eye did. And then he ended up paralyzed from the waist down. That following year, the Philadelphia Sound, that's the name of their label, ended up parting ways with Clive Davis, because he ended up doing getting him into some sort of scam and some sort of money troubles. So they parted ways. So they didn't want nothing to do with Clive Davis. So they couldn't understand why Jay-Z was getting ready to go into business with Sony, and then Sony ended up hiring Clive Davis, which ended up happening down the road. That's why Jaguar Wright was so scared. That's why Jaguar Wright is so skeptical of Jay-Z. He wanted to create his own company where he could be able to control all his own masters to his own music. The problem with that is he couldn't control his own masters, meaning that every time your music is played on the radio, that money is sent to a publishing company. That publishing company is the one who controls the master recording of your final draft of your song and your music. So in order for Jay-Z to get back his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, he would have to get Michael Jackson out the way, because Michael Jackson owned the rights to Reasonable Doubt because he bought the ATV catalog. Number one. Number two, if you notice, it was released on the day Michael Jackson died. So he knew he had to get him out of the way, so he had to befriend him. So he had to do a favor for him. So that's where the favor came in. But the favor wasn't just for him. It was also to help Beyonce. It was like a 2-for-1, because if I get rid of Aaliyah, Beyonce will rise. But see, Janet didn't know that Beyonce was trying to rise like that. So she used her brother to go over to Jay-Z to get rid of the problem for her. But she can't come out and say it. Neither can Beyonce, because then it'll look like they both conspired to kill Aaliyah. Okay? So when Aaliyah went on that trip, Hype Williams is the one that got Aaliyah onto that plane. 2008. Let's fast forward a little bit. 2008. 2008. Jay-Z starts up Rock Nation with Sony, the same very people that Michael Jackson was making all these allegations against, that they were trying to. He felt like that Sony was trying to kill him, because remember, Michael Jackson started the Heal the World Foundation for the kids. He borrowed $200 million from Sony to get that off the ground. So he was indebted to Sony. So in order for Sony to get that catalog from Michael Jackson, they had to make him not be able to pay back that money, so that way they could get the catalog. So what did they do with Richard Branson? They made these fake allegations about child molestation and whatnot, which happened in the early 90s, the first allegation. And that's when Janet Jackson recorded that song Scream, which didn't come out until later, until the second molestation came out. But that was her song to try to get her free from Virgin Music. But Virgin Music was like, not so fast, you're still on the red. So the only way that she can get out of that is that she had to help them get rid of Michael. I believe, sources have told me that like I said, Jay-Z started that Rock Nation in 2008. Michael Jackson died in 2009. When he went to that meeting with Sony, he told Sony that I can get that catalog for Michael Jackson for you, but you're going to have to do me one favor. You're going to have to help me. So what did he do? He got Clive Davis, who is P. Diddy's mentor. All of this is, you can look up everything I'm saying. He got Clive Davis in over the A&R department of Sony, which means that anytime Michael Jackson did anything, he would have to refer to Clive Davis about his music and about recouping, about paying them back, or even leveraging his own music as a way to pay them back. So that's why Clive Davis came in at. That was the final last move of the piece to get Michael, installing Clive Davis, the head of the A&R over Sony, making Michael Jackson go bankrupt. How? By making him spend so much money. Who else helped them further bankrupt Michael Jackson? If you remember, Dr. Sabi went to Michael Jackson, and so then Randy, remember how he met Dr. Sabi was through Randy Jackson. Randy's dead. He's the one that got Michael Jackson connected with Dr. Sabi to make him be so far in debt that he had to pay all this money. So he couldn't be able to pay. See, that was the first trick. Michael Jackson died 2009, June 25th. Left Eye died 1 year after Aaliyah on the 25th. Aaliyah died on the 25th. They all died on 25. That lets you know that all their deaths were connected. And we call that something called gematria. Each one of their deaths were connected. Even Tupac's death was connected. All of them are all connected. And right now we're living in the last piece. Is that Jay-Z trying to get the last small fraction of Reasonable Doubt to say that he owns 100% of his debut album. He can't say that right now with Dame Dash owning a percentage of the original record through Rockefeller Records. So they got to get rid of Dame's little small percentage so that Jay-Z can own the whole 100%. The first move was get rid of Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And he also told, Jana, like, hey, your brother's trying to control your music too, So Jana played a lot of big part. Jermaine Dupri played a big part in a lot of trafficking too. He helped traffic Immature over to Virgin Music Group, to Richard Branson. Hype Williams helped with that too. Because you got to remember at that time, the biggest artist that was on top of the world was who? Brandy. And who was Brandy's little peoples? Immature. That's how they got over there. Sex trafficked over there. And then once Diddy got Michael Jackson clapped, that's when Jay-Z devised his plan. And then the other connection piece to Jay-Z is the whole, when Michael Jackson died, he made a song that was called Forever Young. That song, Forever Young, was from a group, Alphaville, which is from the UK, which is signed to V2 Music, which is a subsidiary company of Virgin Music. Michael Jackson always wanted to sample that song Forever Young. So that was a kind of tease at Michael Jackson through Jay-Z, because he released it after he died. And then the song DOA was not really the death of autotune. It was to let the Lords of London know that Michael Jackson was dead on arrival. It had nothing to do with T-Pain. What a lot of people don't understand. He wanted to let them know that he was dead. The king was gone. In a way, Jay-Z wanted to act like he was hero, like he was freeing everybody so that way they can make money on their music. But really and truly what it was it was a theft of the art of war, where he made it seem like he was helping somebody, but in actuality what he was hurting another man that was doing business just like him, because he's being cutthroat in business. So why would you try to cutthroat someone else who's bigger in business than you? And you couldn't beat him business acumen wise, so you have to kill him. That's not good business. To kill somebody because you can't beat them in the decision that they made, or the business, because
Like I said, originally in 1984, the guy only wanted to sell the Beatles. Oh, I can afford that. And then when people were able to afford that, he didn't want it to get into the hands of the Lords of London. So he wanted to sell it completely. Paul McCartney didn't have that money. Because remember, he's part of the Beatles. He got to split that 3 ways. He wasn't a solo act. Michael Jackson was solo, had that bad album. He had the money. Paul McCartney didn't have the money. See, that's what people got to understand. You only get so much money on songwriting credits. I mean, when John Lennon died, his wife, Ono, she sold all the rights back to the companies hoping that they would give her a record deal. She didn't get none out of John Lennon's music. There's a lot that people don't know about the music industry because they're not business people. And dealing with the music industry, you need to know the music industry to understand the business and how it works in order to be able to find the pieces and find who did what. You know, that's why we're at the last piece right now. And that's why Dame Dash is throwing up so much resistance, because he knows he owns the last percentage of reasonable doubt. The main goal and the main reason why Michael's not here. He wanted to help the Lord of London get their music back, but the main reason why he helped them was so that he could get his back. That's why he installed Rock Nation. That way, when he helped Sony get that back, Sony will help him give his rights to his music back. That was a deal that he orchestrated, just like the deal he orchestrated with Dame Dash when he sold Rockefeller. That when Kevin Lyles sat down from Def Jam, that he could be the president over there, and left Dame Dash out to dry. You know, that's the same deal he struck up with Sony when he started Rock Nation in 2008. And if you think about it, like I said, Janet Jackson, her contract ended in 2008, right before Michael died. Up until then, her contract never ended. Same thing with the Clive Davis thing. 2008 was the pre-Grammy celebration of the death of Bernie Mac. And also Isaac Hayes. Also was a celebration of Michael Jackson's death to come. And in 2012 was a celebration of Whitney Houston's death. And it also was a celebration of no other than who? Back to him again, Richard Branson. At the Clive Davis pre-Grammy party. 2008, he got his own pre-Grammy party. Why? Because he became the head of A&R over at Sony. Link everything together, it all makes sense. You can look it up, you can Google and verify everything that's being said in this video. Jay-Z in the title situation. He basically inflated the streams on The Life of Pablo, the Lemonade album, and he inflated those numbers. I think he maybe even inflated Nicki Minaj's numbers. But he inflated a lot of people's numbers. Some of the people came back and sued him for not paying him the amount of money that they should have made off of the streams that they said that he got. So what he did was he artificially inflated the streams, which is a federal offense, to make the company worth more money. And Jack Dorsey used the Florida Police's retirement money, which is IRA accounts money, spent people's retirement money on a company to purchase a company that actually was overappraised. That's fraud. And then once you sell the company, the people that you sell who are your investors in the company, you don't cut them out properly. See, that's fraud. You cannot do that. And then you got to remember that Jay-Z had to meet who the investors were. So don't you think that Jay-Z met the cops, the retired people's cops who put their money in retirement in the hands of Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey? BlackRock, you don't think that he didn't meet none of those officers? Some of them may even been feds. It's retirement. It's a retirement fund. So the SEC on the stock exchange, they may be looking into all of that. Was it an actual legal purchase? Was it fraudulent? And if any of these cops are tied back to Diddy in any of his cases or any of his shenanigans, you see, that's the key right there. If any of those cops have any of those monies in a retirement fund of title and help Diddy in any way, because Jay-Z told them, you see where I'm going with this? And see, Nicki Minaj confirmed it by saying that Jay-Z didn't pay her right out the deal. You know? Snake oil salesman is what Jay-Z is. That is what he is.